So Hunnam, Student Opportunities Co-ordinator. I look after all the student opportunities stuff at US, so anything from clubs and society, student volunteering, media stuff, student fundraising and RAG, so all fun things that happen in student unions. And I'm joined today by Georgie.
Hello, hi, I'm Georgie. I'm a campaigns officer here at NUS. So general election is kind of my focus at the moment, but particularly Generation Votes, that's our voter registration and Get Out the Vote campaign. So if you feel like you need to kind of ask any questions about general election, you can always email me at the end as well.
Fabulous. So today's webinar is the first one of 2015. We run a student opportunities webinar every month. Every week there is one or two NUS webinars that cover a whole host of topics. One earlier at 12, which was talking about the environmental and ethical work NUS does. And then there's this one. They're running all the way up to the end of March. So, but today's webinar is aimed at staff and officers from an activities or an opportunities background. It's really back to basic stuff. So sorry if some of it you already know, but hopefully it will give you a really good chance to understand the basics, understand what NUS is doing, and start to do some planning around your general election stuff. Start about the NUS ones. All of the different people from across the NUS group host a webinar every week. So it may not be me, it might be someone from our membership team, or it might be someone from the education team, or someone from the policy team. It could be anybody. There's a website where they're all hosted, and I will find that for you and email it out after the webinar so that you can see the other topics that are coming up. And we usually post out on the various GISC mails about whichever webinar it is that's coming up. So hopefully you'll be able to find out more about that. They're usually really good, really interesting. But we do record them as well. So we're recording this webinar so you can listen to it again. You can pass it on to colleagues. That's absolutely fine. It's a really back to basics kind of thing. There's loads of existing resources. So one of the purposes of this webinar is to talk you through those and to explain where you can find out more information, because Georgie and her team have been putting together loads of stuff to do with the general election. So some of the webinar will be highlighting that stuff. We will provide you with more information afterwards, and we'll send you the slides as well. So don't panic if you can't get everything down while we're talking. We'll send you kind of a summary with the slides, and obviously you can listen again. Please ask questions. We really encourage you to ask questions. The learning objectives, so we can see what we're going to cover today. To talk to you about the resources that can help you to prepare for general election and for National Voter Registration Day, which we'll about in a minute. To share some ideas that NUS has had for student media, societies, sports, fundraising and volunteering. But we also would really like it if you have any ideas during this webinar to share those in the chat bar, and we can discuss those in more detail. And that's not for the general election, but for National Registration Day. So we'll give you some more information, and hopefully it will fuel some ideas that you can share with everybody. Finally, we like to make our webinars really practical, so we'll give you some time in this space to create a plan, or at least start to create your plan for having to involve different student opportunities groups in the general election and voter registration. So that's all right with you all? Now, let's go on. So, Georgie, the basic stuff. Can you just go over the really basic stuff for us?
So I'm going to be really, really basic. So if you kind of already know what an election is, then I'm sorry. No one does. It's not everyone's area of work. So you've got your dates there. Kind of one of the most important ones is the 7th of May. So that's the general election. They take place every 5 years. And basically, they are where people in their local constituency, their local area, for who wants to be their next MP. So decisions in Parliament. And that's elected quite differently to how it would be in your students' union. So in your students' union, you'll use something called single transferable votes, most probably. So we can rank preferences of candidates. But in a kind of normal national election, it's first past the post, which is actually simpler than it sounds. It basically means that someone with the most votes wins, even if they've only got 2 votes. So that's something that you probably want to bear in mind if you're working with students who've never voted outside of your SU elections before, I mean, most students at this election will not have voted at the last one. It'll be their first opportunity, so kind of bear that in mind. And the Tories received the biggest amount of MPs. Other parties collectively have more MPs, so that's where we've fallen into this coalition partnership. So does that make sense to everyone? Just going to mute microphones. For anyone that doesn't understand how elections work, the key date that you can see there is National Voter Registration Day. So this was a day that was kind of invented last year by an organisation called Fight the Ballot, a youth organisation that tried to encourage young people to participate in democracy at a local and national level. So their main thing is registering students to vote. So on National Voter Registration Day, that is part of a week of UK-wide action. So it doesn't matter if you're in Scotland, if you're in Northern Ireland, there'll always be someone there. Ooh, right there. Very nice.
Someone's put a link in. That's really helpful. Thanks, Scarlett.
Yeah, brilliant. And there's some great resources that we can talk about. So Fight the Ballot has something called Back to the Basics, which is if you want to train your societies on policy and do that. So take a look at that link that Scarlett's just put in. So lots of different organisations will be coming together on the 5th of February to run local events to encourage people to register to vote. So that's everything from student unions and local charities to even Asda are opening the doors of their local supermarkets. So if you want to get some more fundraising students into Asda to go and do something, then you can just go speak to your local Asda. They'll have somebody who kind of runs events there to speak to. The key day for unions to come out in force about voter registration, because you'll be doing all up until the deadline to register to vote. This one, everyone will be talking about it, lots of action and activity on Twitter. And last time round, kind of a reason to keep you kind of inspired is that less than 25% 18 to 25-year-olds voted in 2010. So we have a huge issue on our hands. It's NUS's general election campaign as well, so we're just doing, you can't vote in the general election and the parties are less likely to write policies for you. And there's been some big fundamental changes to voter reg. If you have any questions about that, then give me an email, but also we've got loads of resources that take you straight from basics all the way through to how to run an event. But yeah, they're kind of the two most important days in your calendar. Now quickly move on to what it's doing. So feel free to ask any questions at all about why we're doing it, or whether decisions have come from us, absolutely fine. So the first thing is, I guess, why students are crucial to the general election. So checking the chat, cool. Kiss there, that was nice.
Thank you.
So some people might understand why NUS is doing stuff on the general election. But this election that's coming up on May 7th is unpredictable. Never quite sure what will happen, but we do know that there's a huge appetite for change. So last round in 2010, Dems, who were a free education party at the time, made some pledges to not raise the cost of tuition fees. And we thought, as an organisation, that's quite obvious. They're for free education, so they've never raised the fees. Actually, what happened afterwards was quite different. They went into a coalition government with the Tories. We've ended up with a tripling of fees. And that's not just students, but for kind of the wider population, that lots of people mistrust in politicians. So around, there's a huge appetite for change. And students and young people make up a huge demographic of those voters. So we represent 7 million students in the UK, and if 7 million students voted, we could completely change the result of the general election. That's why we're encouraging students to be forced to be reckoned with at the ballot box. So that's doing through Generation Vote. The next thing is a new deal for students that you might have heard of. So a new deal for students is essentially our general election manifesto. If you go onto NUS Connect, you can see our manifesto. It's 30 policy asks, which cover the areas of work, education and community. They've all been decided through either policy that's been passed at conference or kind of ideas that have been brought up in office manifestos. So all of them have come instead from democratic kind of activities. There's another thing to mention. We've got one today.
First one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the first one, which is on education funding. It's about tuition fees. It's about whether we should have free education. And if you check out the hashtag January Education Sales, then you'll see any activity that anyone's doing today. That every week I'm doing a different day of action based on those policy asks. So if they're on NUS Connect, you'll see them, and we've kind of lumped them into different areas. The next one will be youth issues, which has things around votes at 16. So if you're an FE college, then with a large population of 16 and 17-year-olds, that's really important. It'll also be talking about bus travel, the updates on the NUS Connect website, and you'll be able to see toolkits and campaign material. We've also got 2 websites. So much going on.
Whoa.
He's really shocked there. So we've got 2 websites. We've got one for student unions. Student union gets a login. That votes at 16. I'll have to check, but I think it is the 29th of January. If you check on NUS Connect in the Winning for Students section, you'll be able to see it.
It's in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we've got 2 websites that will really help you if you're kind of new to campaigning as well. So the first one is the Student Union website, which is newdealnextgen.com. We'll write that into the chat bar for you. And this one, every student union gets a login. And what you can do on there is you can see which constituencies your campuses fall into. You can see which candidates are in that area. You can also choose which of the 30 policy asks you want to prioritise and campaign on. And it's really good for planning. So there's lots of different briefings on there. There's some on voter registration, there's some on planning campaigns and power mapping. So look at that website. Your president should have a login. If not, pop us an email. My email address is at the end of the presentation and we can chat that through. The second website is for students. So this is one to be promoting to your members. So it's newdeal2015.uk. So students can sign up there, and things they can do is register to vote. They can work out where they want to vote. So if they want to vote at their home address or their hometown address, if they live somewhere different to others. They can also let you know as a union what they'd like to prioritise, so they can vote on the 30 policy asks, and that gets sent over to your few login.
That's fair. I didn't know that.
So it'll physically do that, and you can see what your students want. So if you think surveying is something you really need because the general is quite hard to kind of tackle, that's the thing to do. So that in a nutshell is what we're doing general election. Why? That's a lot of information, so feel free to ask questions.
And we personally haven't gone through every ask because there's 30 of them, and some of them are more complicated than others, and we think it's more important that you have a look on the website and read about them yourself. So we haven't missed that out accidentally. We've purposefully done that because we thought we could spend the whole hour talking about the 30 asks. So do check those out. Does anyone have any questions at this stage about what Georgie's just said? Radio.
I think that is a good.
We'll carry on, and if there are questions as we go through, please do ask, because we'll either stop and answer it then if it's relevant, or we'll answer your question at the end. So just please ask. Next thing to talk about. Oh, a picture. That's fun.
Hello. Okay. So we just talked about National Voter Registration Day before, which is the 5th of February. So this is essentially just one big day to register to vote and talk about the general election with your students. Be up in about 2 or 3 weeks' time.
Yeah, it's not very long away now.
No, making me panic. But to help you guys along, not only did we send out unions a generation vote pack, so you had something in the post or when you went to a regional event that had a big foam hand in it. If you didn't, give me an email. every union gets one each as like a free complimentary one, so let me know. But also, write me down. You're on my list. Not in a bad way.
Which union are you from? If you could just let us know, then we can make sure we send it to you.
And US is also,
okay, thank you.
Also giving away £500 to some unions. So all you need to do is go on to NUS Connect, and you'll see the competition. All you have to do is fill in a really short form, which basically says, this is my plans for National Registration Day or week, if you extend it for the whole week. Just checking who that was.
Could let us know where you're from. We'll make a note and we'll see if we've sent you one.
Awesome. Saying again, is what your plans are for National Voter Registration Day or week, and also kind of a breakdown of what you'd spend the £500 on. You just get £500 as a lump sum, so we're not doing different bids for different amounts of money. So just the creative ways that you can use the money. We've already had some proposals that involve selfie sticks.
Okay.
People are doing some really exciting stuff. If you look at all of the resources online, you'll be able to see kind of suggestions that we have. If you can't think of stuff original to do, that's absolutely fine, because it is quite hard to try and think of these campaign ideas. So it's about being original, or worry about how you're going to get as many students as possible.
Yeah, it's about reaching lots of people. So as far as I'm aware, it says on there that we are encouraging things with societies, things with sport.
Yeah, definitely.
Like anything with student opportunities focus is going to be encouraged, because that's a really great way of engaging lots of students.
Definitely.
Yeah, and if you've got any ideas, as Scarlett's done, Scarlett's just written down an idea in the chat about free nail painting. While they sit and register online, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anybody else has any other ideas, write them down. We're going to get to do it at the start of an activity now. So what we need to do is grab a pen and paper, and we just to start, because we're going to do a bit more talking, and then you'll get some time to finish this, or at least do a bit more on it. So thinking about where we are now, which is the 15th of January, and where we're going, which is May 7th, which is voting day. About the different things that you need to do in between now and then in order to kind of mobilize your students, get people talking about it. Think about voter registration day on the 5th and what you might do around that. I'm going to give you just about 3 minutes of thinking time to scribble down, do it however you like. We're not going to test you. It's because we know it's easier to think about this stuff while you're in a webinar or a training session about it. So, and on the screen you'll be able to see that there's 3 kind of points to think about. Who do you want to meet with or engage? What activities do you want to run? And what's already happening in your SU or in your institution that you're aware of? So I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. Okay, 1 more minute just to get down some more ideas. And as I said, you don't have to finish this. We'll give you some more pointers in the few minutes when we go through and do some more information. So don't panic if it's not finished, but think about, in terms of who you want to meet with and engage, think about your local people might be running in the election. Think about other kind of councils and whether there's anything you can do with them, but then also think about inside your college or university, who is it that is important to talk to in the preparation for this, anyone you need to get on board. Start thinking about the activities that you want to run and if you're happening in your students' union. And don't worry if you don't know, because that's fine. It might be that this is your first thing that you plan to do. Today's webinar is the first thing, and so you haven't anything planned yet, and that's fine. I'll just give 30 more seconds. So Georgie's just writing down in the chat bar the email address. If you could email Georgie at campaigns@nus.org.uk if you haven't had a generation vote pack, and then she can double check whether you've had one, and if not, she can send it out. So just kind of do your activity now, and if you've got any reflections from the first stage of doing that, then pop those in the chat bar, and we give you a chance to carry on doing that timeline in a minute. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth about how this works with student opportunities, because one of the reasons that the main reason we're doing this webinar is because NUS is doing a lot of stuff on Generation Vote, and in the lead up, we thought it was really important to do something separate for student opportunities, because there's the power there in the groups that already exist, and they already have a lot of people involved. And it's generally easier to get people doing stuff if they're already engaged in a group or in an activity. So something else on kind of why opportunities is important that you think, Georgie?
I think just think about how whenever you have a union election, the societies are one of the kind of main places that your kind of candidates come from. Everybody's fun, really creative. Yeah, much easier to get people's peers to talk to them than perhaps it is for US. Perhaps, try to be cool.
Yeah. These are just kind of general pointers. It's really important that you make it relevant to them. And make it related to something that they care about. So there's no point in going and talking to the dance society about something that's nothing to do with dance or nothing to do with their rehearsal spaces or anything. Making it about something that they are interested in, and trying to make it so that when you're talking about the general election, you're talking about how government decides how arts funding is did, and so it is relevant to them, and that they should get involved, and they should vote, and they should register people to vote. Related to something that they care about, if you're talking to your volunteering or fundraising people, relate back to the causes that they fundraise for or volunteer for, and get them to think about how whichever party is elected, or parties, how it will affect them, and if they don't know, then is there a way that they can find out? Could they go and talk to people like that? There's no point trying to engage them if you're not going to try and make it relevant at the same time. There will be a handful of people who want to get involved regardless, but they will be the minority. So think about how you can make it engaging to them. A general pointer is about how you can make it competitive, because like sports clubs, societies, they love competition, and there's nothing wrong with that, and you should definitely encourage them to use that in order to get more involved. And voter registration day is really good for that. So it's harder to make the general election competitive. Voter reg is really easy. So we're going to talk in a minute about some ideas for specific groups. So but think how you can make it competitive. Finally, the third kind of general thing to consider is to involve them from the planning stage. So it works a lot better if you involve them now, when you're just starting to think about this stuff, when you're planning some event ideas or designing activities that you're going to do. If you involve them, so perhaps you could set up like an organising committee, or you could ask representatives from interested societies and clubs to come along, or maybe you ask that each society, club, volunteering group nominate someone or elect someone to look after this as a project. But really crucially, do involve them. Don't just decide what you're going to do and then go, oh, by the way, in knowledge we're doing this, because you're more likely to get buy-in if they're involved in the plan. planning. Okay, so talking about some kind of more specific ideas, what you and I are going to do now is go through a few general ideas that you could use with groups or some societies, some clubs, or you could use it with your fundraisers and your volunteers, but then also some more kind of specific fitting to different types of student opportunities groups. So we start with some more general ones. Do you want to talk about clubs and societies vote varsity?
Yeah, so last year we ran a vote varsity, which was just for students, and it was a great way of getting people competitive. So, for example, all of the Liverpool unions, like, go to each other. They work really well for your clubs and societies, your sports clubs. Essentially, what you can do is you could perhaps give them some voter registration forms, stamp them with the name of their society, and get them to go out for a day or a week, do a bit of a competition to see how many people they can get registered, and then have some sort of prize. It could be something like some cash for their society account. It could be that they do a bit of a website takeover and you advertise to join their sports club or society for that week. But that's a really great way, like we said before, competition. Such competition.
Yeah, it works really well. Okay, good. And what about running a fake election? You said that this is something that you have experience doing or were going to do?
Yeah, so when I was at Southampton Solent, which is a brilliant university.
Yay!
Woohoo! We had the idea of running like a fake election. So this could be like a parody one or a mock one as part of our student media society. I've never watched The Thick of It, which is a bit of a nerdy programme about politics. It's basically just disaster after disaster. So you can run a fake election, get your student societies to film it, get your drama societies to act in it. That can be really funny and effective. Anything that you can make go viral, I think, works well.
Yeah, and something that crosses over, so it could be a couple of societies and your student media, and maybe you get some of your volunteers to get involved. Like things that cross over into different groups is really good, because you're going to be getting more people, you're going to be getting people to work with people they haven't worked with before. It's definitely something that's relevant to absolutely everyone, so it's not exclusive in any way. But there are two kind of more general ideas. If any ideas while we're talking to these, then feel free to stick them in the chat bar, and we'll be really interested in to hear what you've got to say. So two kind of more general ones, and they're more on the hub, aren't there?
Yep, so you can go onto the hub or go onto NUS Connect, and there's Generation Vote and National Voter Registration Day toolkits. Just have a cat, and they've got tons of ideas, but we want to make you read the toolkit.
So there's more kind of general ideas. In terms of specific ideas for different student opportunities groups, student media, we're actually running a student media competition. There's some really, really good prizes in things like NUJ membership, National Union of Journalists membership, and we're basically going to be rewarding the best studio coverage of National Voter Registration Day and the election, and we're releasing more information about that, I believe, next week. So we'll make sure that you get that through email. But, something that you can promote to your student media, which actively encourages them to get involved, but also requires pretty much no effort on your behalf, because all you have to do is tell them about the competition and perhaps help them think of some cool ideas. So that's the way with your student media. Live viewing hustings?
Yeah, so this is a really great thing. So I'd like some key things that your union will probably be doing for the general election. They'll be doing stuff like getting people to register to vote. They'll be trying to bring the candidates in your constituency in, and maybe doing a bit of a debate. So we can get your student media societies live streaming that. Maybe they have a bit of like a debrief after it, where they kind of get students to talk about what they thought of the candidates. That can be really effective. If you look at Bournemouth Students' Union, they had Jump TV, which is their TV society, do some really great coverage of the Obama election, and that can show you the kind of potential that's got.
We'll try to link to that and include it in the notes that we send back to you afterwards. Also, student media, if you've got student radio, you could challenge them to make a general election or voter reg jingle. That's quite fun. Anything where you can make it fun and engaging and bring in that kind of competition is a good idea. Move on to societies. Talent disco in the library. This is one of Georgie's ideas, so I'll let her explain it.
Some people might like, we could never do that in our library. We could definitely have done it in Salem's library.
But it's a good challenging one.
Yeah, so like, see what states have a go at you at your union. This is the idea of getting like dance societies or just some people who are really keen on dancing.
You could get radio to do it too.
Yeah, maybe everyone could have headphones and they're listening to your radio society. And have a little bit of a silent disco in your library, so everyone can be dancing around, silent and respectfully, of course. And when someone goes, "What are you doing?" you just point them to a little voter reg booth that you have in the corner or just outside the library. That's a really great kind of attention-seeking way to do it. I think with voter registration, it's really boring, so anything that can make it fun and can make people go and have a look and have a chat with you is really great, because you put a link on your union website and say it's important that you register to vote, but stuff like this is what makes it actually happen.
It makes it more interesting and exciting. With societies, I think they're probably one of the easier to engage, because you can be focusing on what it is that they do and try and think of a unique activity or event that they could organise. But there's kind of obvious ones around, like getting drama society to do some kind of like fun reenactment of an important election, or you can get your debating society to host debates, or you can get political societies to have a fake election. There's loads of the more kind of obvious things with societies, which can be really, really fun and a great way to get people thinking about it. In terms of sports, we actually sat down to think about how to engage student opportunities people with the general. Georgie and I were a bit like, oh, sports, that's hard. Actually, it's not that hard. No. And a few kind of fun ideas. One of your ideas is really fun.
Okay, so if you've got any sports clubs, especially people who are quite nimble, like cheerleaders, they're very great. We've got this idea of no such thing as a safe seat. This is a quite complex thing to kind of describe. Oh, so I'm putting some ideas. So that essentially, if you think of a human pyramid or of Jenga, the higher Jenga gets, or the higher the human pyramid gets, the more safe it is almost, because so much more to topple down. That's the thing. So imagine that you've got your cheerleading society and they're making a human pyramid. Somebody else as a politician asked them to try and climb the human pyramid when it's already finished. How is that? That's the same idea as if we got all of the students to register, finding that any seat, any constituency that's deemed safe, like it's a safe Labour seat or a safe Tory seat, isn't safe anymore. You can topple it, and that's something to talk about, the potential of it. Plus, really fun. You can go and do it outdoors, or you can just buy, if you don't have kind of enough student volunteers, just maybe buy or borrow a few Jenga sets and do it around maybe kind of casual areas in your cafes. That's quite well.
A really fun idea. I have someone as well here at NUS talking about kind of armbands for sports clubs that say like get the vote or something like that, which is a fun idea. And obviously there's all the competition element, which goes really well with sports. If anyone has any other ideas for sports, then write them down. We'd love to hear them. Anything that you've got planned, or just something that you've thought of while we're talking. Volunteering. Our favourite idea regarding volunteering is to do a bit of craftivism. I know Georgie's been practicing her craftivism at home.
Yeah, so craftivism is a concept that it works pretty well for people who are quite shy and introverted, I think, as well. It's the concept that you can make something very pretty. You can also at the same time think about things, take some time to mull it over. Craft is an art. It takes a while. So volunteering society to make things for people. So we've had ideas of like cross-stitch bookmarks that say register to vote, or like little banners that you leave around. If you Google Craftivist Collective, you can see all the kind of things they do. They're an organisation that kind of that. And it's a really nice way to get people thinking about why it's important to register to vote, what difference they're making. So it's like chilled one. If you do something like 5-minute volunteering on your campus, that can be really great. you could like decorate mugs or something. So think about what you can get societies that already exist and how you can take what they do and spin on it.
Yeah. The way the Craftivist Collective, the first thing the Craftivist Collective did was the founder made a handkerchief, and she stuck to it just a short message to her MP. She tried writing, and the MP didn't pay any attention to the writing. Thanks, Scarlett, for posting the link. You're like our links lady today, aren't you? Rather than carrying on writing, the Craftivist Collective decided, okay, well, this isn't working. I need to put more effort in. So she hand-stitched a letter on a handkerchief, and with the message being, don't blow it, like don't blow this opportunity that you've got. Kind of, I think, gives the feel of what craftivism is about. It's not really kind of aggressive and activism. It's all about like thinking and considering, which we think goes really nicely with volunteering. And volunteers are generally pretty good at kind of getting out there, talking to people. So getting involved in this is important. With fundraising, so with your student fundraisers or your RAG groups, there's a different thing you could do. You could talk to them about work with some of their charities, so they could get their charities to come in and talk to students about how their charity is influenced by politics. You could do a sponsored voter registration.
Yeah, so have you ever done like a dance-a-thon, like a sponsored dance marathon?
Yes.
So the concept is that maybe this could be something that you do for your clubs and society varsity, that people sponsor their friends per registration. So if you say, I'm going to sponsor you £1 per registration you get, so you can raise money for a charity at the same time as doing your voter reg, which is a really cool idea. So again, competitive. You can see this theme running throughout. Yeah. But also, fundraising is a hard one to connect with the general election, and this is a good way of doing it, because you might have people who kind of are in lots of different societies. If you're probably anything like me or Rosie, you're probably like 2 or 3 societies. So you can do some crossover.
Yes, and so that's a few of our ideas. There's more ideas online that we will link you to with the briefing. Does anyone have any other ideas relating to any of those areas that we've just talked through? So anything there, or cities, or sports, or volunteering, or fundraising? It's strange to wait for. So Scarlett from Bath College says you're making posters for us. That's a really good idea. So get them involved in some of the kind of backgroundy stuff about registration awareness. That's a really good idea. Unique skills like that they're really good at already, and get them to do that, to do your general election stuff. Graham is linking general election with student election. Yeah, that's really smart. It's good, isn't it? Because your student elections are coming up, and it's people about it, and it helps you to understand what your election's about. Any ideas?
Take if you're on Twitter, the Generation Vote hashtag, because that has some really great pictures of things that we've done. So in Plymouth, they've got voter registration condoms. Someone says bribe with food. What you?
No.
Oh, it hasn't come up with who said that. Bribe food is such a good idea.
Yeah. It's like I said bribe with food, but I haven't. But yeah. So in Plymouth, they've got condoms. What's the message there? I don't get it.
So they've got a sexual health campaign that they're running, and they wanted to do 2 at once. So they've condoms, and they put stickers on them that say "Protect your future."
Oh, makes sense. Okay, great, got it. That's quite canny.
So yeah, you could get your baking society to make Generation Vote like cupcakes or gingerbread, or
you get your society to look at the history of elections in your area, which would be quite fun. I'm a historian, so I think that's quite exciting, but perhaps not. Someone said that they've created a giant ballot box putting outside the union. That's a really good idea.
Now, union are you from? I love this idea. I want to get a blow-up ballot box and just kind of roll it around the country. Lovely.
Okay. Keep your ideas coming, because we will either add those to resources or at the very we'll send them out to you all, so you've got them written down.
And give you credit for them.
Yeah, you'll get credit for them if you tell us which union you're from. So hopefully those kind of, I know they're not everything that you can do, but hopefully what we've just shown you is that you can be quite creative, and hopefully it sparked your imagination a little bit in terms of the different things you do. Someone's got stickers made up to chuck all over the food in the canteen and the shops. That's a really good idea.
We did that at Bournemouth. You use cocktail sticks. They've got little flags with food around those.
That's fun. So we're just going to give you, now we've done a bit talking about different ideas, we'll just give you a couple of more minutes to add things to your timeline. So maybe based on some of the ideas that we've talked about, or on the ideas that you've just had whilst we were talking, add a couple of things onto the plan that you started creating before. And what we'll screen is kind of some suggestions. So do you want to just talk people through that?
So we're in the January to March kind of period, so we've separated into different areas. So January to March, you'll probably be doing hustings. That means getting in contact with your local candidates and inviting them in. So maybe you can think of the ways that student media can get involved in that. 21st is out, so you've got February, which is National Voter Registration Day. That needs to be on your timeline. You need to be doing something for that because it's so much fun. 21st of April is the voter registration deadline. If you're doing paper registration, you want it in a few days before that, just to be. Think about how you can celebrate that deadline, because after that date, the campaign of the general election starts. That means that literally the entire country is just talking about an election and nothing else.
That's what we hope anyway.
All over the news, everywhere, because it will only be 14 days left until the election at that point. So that's the point where you can be like, woohoo! Some of you might have a national conference or try and have some sort of party or something.
Yeah.
And the 7th of May, which is polling day, so that's time to vote. So think about how you can get your parties involved. Maybe you can get the rugby team to, I don't know, carry people to the polling station. Who knows?
That'd be fun. So with this in mind, and with some of the ideas that we've just talked about, have a little think about other stuff you might want to add into your plan, into your timeline. We'll give you 2 minutes to do that. So a little bit more thinking time, and then we've got a few more slides to show you. Okay, just to do a little bit more thinking, and then we're going to ask you to pop down the best idea that you've had in the chat box. Finish today.
Should I write something?
Is go and make sure all of my friends and family are registered to vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to tell some of your staff to register to vote.
Yeah.
what I do, I'm doing something at home, I'm doing some craftivism, and I'm making some little protest banners on registering to vote, and I'm leaving them in different places.
Good. So everyone's going to look into poll voting. That's a good idea.
That's a good idea, definitely. The deadline's 21st of April for that as well. That's good.
So put in extra ideas, and then we're going to leave a few minutes for questions. So we'll carry on with the plans, and then you've got a little bit of time for questions. So just in terms of your next steps, which hopefully you're writing about now. So you're writing about your next action. Something. It's really relevant to you. It's really relevant to your students. Whoever wins and what policies they get elected on will massively shape what our country looks like for the next 5 years. So please do something. It's really important. A flag for the student media competition that we mentioned before, we'll be posting out about that next week. So get your student media to get working on this stuff, because they'll need to show evidence that they've done something. So for example, if they're going to win the best broadcast relating to the general election, they'll need to kind of send us the YouTube clip or something. So they can't just kind of say they've done stuff, they need to show us the evidence for it. So get them thinking about what they might do and get them planning with you about what's going to happen. The funding.
The NVRD funding, that's basically the competition. So £500, you could do so much with that money.
Loads. You could do the whole thing, your whole campaign.
So NVRD is 1 day, or you can use it for the entire week. Just go to NUS Connect and you can find the form, download it, fill it out, and back to us in an email. If you want to ring me or email me to say, would this be good to get funding for, then I can help you. So yeah.
And we'll put Georgie's email at the end anyway. So
yeah.
Plan what you're going to do. So hopefully you've started your plan now in this webinar, and you'll have been given some good ideas. So carry on with that planning. Talk to the other people in your union, talk to your students about what it is that you're going to be doing and any ideas that they've got. And be social.
Yeah, please use hashtag Generation Vote. I pretty much look at it an hour because I'm a little bit addicted.
Yeah, she does.
And anything that we find on that's really good, we've got a little page on NUS Connect which is about what unions are doing, and we'll be sharing it and making sure that you get loads of quits. Don't be shy to tell us if you're doing something, because those case studies make it so much easier for other unions to think of things, and you deserve the self-recognition.
What did Oxford do that you were telling me about this morning?
Oxford made a Tinder profile for a joint called Voter Reg. Get it?
So Tinder's a social networking dating site.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Cool.
So anybody within a certain radius, which means anybody who's near uni, will have that come up when they're looking.
That's clever. That's smart. Okay, so the message there is do something, please. So finally, we've got about 2 or 3 minutes for you to ask any questions around what we've talked about, or if there's anything that I wish they talked about this, I don't know anything about it, then write those down now and we will do them. Resources, the recording for this webinar will be ready, and we can send that to you. And we're going to kind of collate all of the stuff that we've mentioned, so links and resources in a briefing document for you, so that you've got that, and there'll be a chance for you to do a proper timeline plan for your activities. Email addresses are on the screen as well. Someone's just asked a question. So the voter registration forms, do you know when they need to be sent off by? Well, it depends how far away you are kind of situated from your council. I would say if the deadline is around the 20th, 21st, I'd try and get them in ASAP. Yeah. Because also just because your local electoral registration offices will have to go them all individually and confirm them, so it can take a really long time. So just quickly take them in and send them. Yeah. But you can do them online now, so that's one of the things that's changed. So voter registration has changed slightly, which you'll see in the toolkit. But it means that you can go online. So if you go to the government website and look at registering to vote, it's really easy. You do need your national insurance number to hand, so you can just kind of get people towards that link.
clickers or something and count them.
Yeah. Will you email that to us? Yeah, we will email the briefing to us. If you help me out by putting your email address in the chat bar, it's that sometimes if you haven't joined the webinar as kind of a signed in person, it doesn't give me your email address, so it might mean that you don't get the briefing. So if you want me to send you the follow-up resources, can you pop your email in the chat bar, and then I'll make sure that you get those as soon as we finish them. It's just a case of us collating them for you.
If not, if you've got an Connect login, go to Winning for Students and you'll be able to find stuff there.
There's lots of stuff already online. It's just all we're going to be doing is pulling it all together so that it's what we've said with you today. So that it makes sense. Questions. We've got about 1 more minute to answer any more questions.
So checking polling stations, we are using our general election hub, and there's a really cool feature which means that we should hopefully be able to email out all students that sign up to them where their nearest polling station is. So if you tell your students to sign up, they can do it that way. Otherwise, speak to your local council, because it could be also that there's still an opportunity for you to for a polling station near campus. But hopefully you'll be close by and you can do walking buses and stuff.
Yeah, good. Grace has asked, is this the same presentation that you'll be having at SU's local? No, it's not. At local, I will be busy doing student opportunity sessions about barriers to student opportunities, and Joy will be doing I don't know.
I'm trying to remember, something on engaging students in general election, so it could be quite similar. Another one on kind of your candidates. But if specifically that you need to get out of this, then pop me an email and we can either discuss it or I can stick it into the SU local event.
Yeah. For anyone that doesn't know what it is, next week we're starting SU's local, which is where we come to you, and there's lots of different topics. It's different NUS people at each one presenting on different stuff. So it just so happens that Georgie and I are doing the next ones. So if you're on NUS Connect and go on the events tab, it will tell you those. So Georgie's doing some general election stuff, I'm doing some student stuff, and also a faith session about faith and belief, and then there's general networking sessions as well. So
yeah. With the deadline of the 25th, before every election, there's a deadline 14 working days away from the election that you have to be registered to vote. That works out around the 25th, but the Electoral Commission say, just to be safe, that we say the 20th. But the 21st of April is basically the last day to register to vote. But if I were you, I'd probably say the 20th to everyone.
Yeah, and obviously, get registering them now if you can.
Yeah, leave it to the last minute, because obviously in April you'll probably have some sort of Easter break at that point as well.
Okay, make sure you've given us your email address if you want us to send you some follow-up materials. Thank you very much for joining this webinar. Thank you for those of you that they're in the 12 o'clock that were because of my mistake. Just on the screen are the next 2 student opportunities webinars. So the 19th of Feb, we're talking about student enterprise and how you can, not just in necessarily student opportunities, in your whole student union, how you can be more enterprising and think about entrepreneurship. And then 19th of March, I'll be with one of the professors from NUS talking about student media, supported or censored, which is a bit of a controversial one, because we're going to be talking to you about when you currently support or censor your student media, and a really interesting document that we're going to be launching in that webinar. So they're next 2, and then there's also lots of webinars, and I will link you to those in our follow-up materials.
Just to clarify for everyone, you can register from now. Mine is, let's say, the 20th of April, so that everyone is safe and solid and ready.
Okay.
So register from now to the 20th of April.
Okay, let's clarify, because I think Misha's just said that about deadlines. So sorry, confused you. Finally, thanks for taking part. If you click on the link in the presentation, it should take you to a a feedback survey, but if it doesn't, I will give it to you in the email. We'd love to know what you thought. Participating, and good luck with your vote registration and general election activities. We can't wait to hear what you do. Yeah. Bye-bye. Bye.